Howdy, howdy, folks. Benjy here. I have a question for you. What do you look for in a spouse? When it comes down to the blessing, the matching process, of all the millions of people, billions of people in the world that you could consider as a partner, what does it really come down to? And I want to talk about this from a spiritual perspective and also a practical relational perspective, because I've been teaching for many years that when it comes to finding someone, it's actually a lot simpler than we make it. That is true. In most cases, finding the right person to be blessed with, got attacked by a branch, finding the right person to get blessed with is way, way simpler than we think. And I want to really delve into that right now and kind of make it a more easy to digest and easy to understand concept. Because when you ask traditional dating gurus, or if you follow traditional dating advice, they say things like, oh, find someone that you enjoy being with, find someone that has a common vision and goal for you, find someone that XYZ, right? But I want to make it more simple than that, because we're not talking about just marriage. We're not talking about just dating. We're talking about the blessing. We're talking about something that's an eternal commitment. It's life plus eternity. So with those parameters, the way that you approach finding someone is slightly different, but actually can be a lot more simpler than you think. And it's kind of a benefit actually to think that the person you are finding has to, at the bare minimum, be someone that wants to receive the blessing, understands what the blessing is, and wants to pass on that tradition of the blessing to your children, okay? So I often say that there is not one predestined partner that is prepared for you by God, predestined. And I've talked about this quite a bit, in that I'm trying to dispel the myth that many people believe that there is such thing as predestination, that God is somehow guiding you to one specific person, or Spirit was guiding to one person. And if you deviate from that one person, if you make a wrong turn or a mistake, you're going to be left eternally with the wrong person that you were supposed to be with. And this is often what paralyzes people, is because they believe that if they don't find that one person, they made a mistake. However, that's not the case, fundamentally, because predestination does not exist. This is divine principle. Because predestination undermines the fact that we all have personal responsibility, we all have choice. And human beings, we're bestowed personal responsibility, and that is one of the greatest gifts that we have from God from the beginning. Okay, and there are other reasons that we don't believe in this idea of one single person. Many experiences where true father and true parents have matched people and given people a choice of, would you like to be matched with this person or this person? I myself personally was in an experience where I went to true parents matching 12 years ago now, almost 12 years ago. And True Father asked us to select our own spouse based on our original mind, our conscience, on the foundation that we were prepared to receive whoever God and True Parents believed were the best person for me, right? On that foundation, True Father gave us the authority and the permission to have confidence and courage in ourselves to do that. Of course, that's a long story. I covered that story in other videos here on this channel. However, let's assume for a second, just to go into this concept a little deeper, let's assume for a second that God does have a very particular kind of person that is chosen for you, all right? Let's go down this rabbit hole. In that situation, from a spiritual perspective, what is the quality that God and True Parents would want you to be matched with? What is the at the bare bones, the basic quality of that individual? What is it? Think about it from True Father's perspective, guys. When True Father was matching hundreds, thousands of couples, right? Thousands. What was his primary priority when it comes to thinking, are these two people compatible? What is his fundamental, first and foremost priority? Was it external things? Sometimes, maybe a little bit, but fundamentally, what was it? It was simply this. True Father needed two people that were going to guarantee that God's blessing would continue to their children and to generations to come. Full stop, period. That is True Parents' fundamental number one priority, is to ensure that the blessing that True Parents came to give is bestowed to their children and passed on to future generations. So in essence, what I'm saying is True Father and True Parents are looking for matches of individuals that share the same trajectory and the same beliefs about what the blessing is, and where and how they are going to educate their children to do the same and to receive the blessing and to pass on that tradition to future generations. That is at the core, what is the most important thing, spiritually speaking, right? If we're talking about the blessing as an eternal relationship, as an eternal commitment, fundamentally, do these two people have the same vision for how they're going to experience the fullness of their blessing in their marriage and then pass that on to other people, to their children and to people around them as tribal messiahs. That is priority number one. Okay, so the bare bones, that's as simple as it gets. Like, honestly, that is as simple as it gets. Just find somebody that shares your vision and your values for the blessing, that wants to expand the blessing in the same way that you do. I'm not saying you have to have exactly the same understanding of the blessing and exactly the same maturity level, but it's a fundamental conversation that needs to happen in the matching process when you're looking for someone. Is what is your understanding of the blessing? Are we committed to doing this blessing thing together and raising our children? If you actually go through the vows that your parents ask all the couples to proclaim during the blessing ceremony, it's all about consummating your marriage, centering on God, having absolute sex and sexual integrity within your marriage, fidelity within your marriage, and then educating and raising children in a family, an environment that passes on that tradition to future generations. Period. That's it. Okay, so that's the spiritual side of it. And the other side, because I know this is how you guys think, right? Because you're smart. What about the relational part of it? If you just have people that are so gung-ho spiritually about this ideal, does that mean that they're compatible relationally speaking? Now, to make this really, really simple and bare bones, because also, again, the relational part of it is not as abstract and complicated as we might think, right? So relationally speaking, there is a concept that I read in a book called Real Love. Now, you might love real love, you might hate real love. Regardless, this sentence really struck a chord with me and really resonated with me. The author of Real Love said, if you have two individuals that know how to receive love and to give love unconditionally, they can make an incredible marriage. Period. They can make a successful marriage if two people who are able to receive love and to give love. Period. In other words, if you have two people who understand that they are loved as an individual, they are uniquely a child of God, they feel love in general, they feel full in their life. And if you have two people that fundamentally are able to receive love and give love to each other and to others, then you have a good relationship. Why? Because at the core of a relationship, the reason that relationships succeed, guys, is because they're able to take responsibility for their flaws and they're able to love unconditionally and to receive love. And it's when people don't feel love and there's a misalignment and, oh, you don't love me, I don't love you, this thing doesn't work, that's when people start to suffer, right? It's not the things that people typically say that relationships fall apart, that cause them. It's not finance, it's not sex, it's not any of that. Those are factors that contribute to tension in a relationship, but it's more about the individual than it is about the topics or the conversations or the marriage itself. It's more about how are we able to have conversation about finance that contributes to whether this is a successful, fulfilling, happy marriage or not, or a destructive and tormenting one, right? So it's nothing to do with those things. And we'd like to label them as like, oh, money is the number one cause for divorce. It's not. It's not. It's when you have two people who don't fundamentally understand love, how to be loved and how to give love to each other, how to have communication and talk about this stuff, those are the people that suffer. If it was the case that money was the cause of everything, then every couple would be suffering, right? Because we know tons of couples that have money problems, but they have a wonderful relationship. Why is that? Because they're able to talk about it. We have tons of couples who have sexual problems or addiction problems. And even so, they're able to talk through that and still have success in their marriage long-term, guys. Long-term, I'm talking. It's because they're able to have conversation about it and love each other, right? That's it. So if you can take anything from this video, know that this process of finding someone is not it's not finding a needle in a haystack. It's not finding a fish in an ocean. It's really identifying these two main things when you're talking with people, talking about these specific points. And we're definitely going to go more into this topic because I think it's a really interesting one with the team. I want to get more people on the podcast to have conversations about this, about what does it actually take to find someone, like what do you look for? But fundamentally, that's the bare bones. That's what you need to know. Think about it from your parents' perspective and God's perspective. What is the number one priority that God has when finding two spouses, right? And also on a relational level, what is it that really counts in a long-term relationship? Okay, I'm getting tired. My arm is so tired, but it's a beautiful day today. It's good to have you guys. Check out matchnet.us if you want to join our systematic program to go through the matching process. And if you want to hang out with me over there, go check that out. Do subscribe and follow here if you want. Take care.